use issues and quality of life issues. And in that respect, for instance, I am a fiscal conservative. I have been advocating that the county continues to be sure that they don't spend money frivolously, especially as we face a deficit in the year 2016. And those are one of the many things, including issues that have to do with land use in the neighborhoods who are concerned. And we get invited a lot, myself, to talk to residents about concerns, and we try to help out the neighborhoods. I also have a business background. I have an MBA. I've been working for Fortune 500 companies as well as small businesses. So I understand the business world, and I really feel that I can bring that to the county commission. So there's many things I can do for the county commission. I want to work for you. You're my future employers. And I want you to know how conservative I am with the budget, as well as the fact that I believe that with business, we need to diversify our economy so we can keep our young here and not have people leaving the community. So I appreciate it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul Caragiulo, 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am an alien from New York, openly, which down in Northport apparently is very popular, since there are a lot of aliens from New York and Northport. I am currently on the city commission. I am a restaurateur by trade. I'm in a family business with my 4 brothers, which makes for a very interesting collaborative partnership. I have a lot of experience in working with tough people, I guess you might say. I have been very privileged to serve on the city commission for the last 3 years, where I have been a voice for small business people, not just short business people, but small business people. Like most places in this country and in the state, the story of business is the story of small business. And I think it's important for those of us who have smaller operations, who don't, with all due respect to the attorneys, that don't hire land use attorneys, don't hire an awful lot of professionals, but do things in the old mom and pop way and try to get things done and go to government to help try to facilitate that and not get in the way so much, only where it's appropriate. What's important to me individually is that we limit taxes, is that we diversify our economy, and we maintain our quality of life. That is the reason why people come here. I'm not retired. I'm nowhere near close to being retired. I have a 5 and 7-year-old. We're in for the long haul. We love this community. I would like to continue and serve a large group of people because I feel very strongly about it. I'm not afraid to admit my campaign has a lot of support, which is viewed as the establishment or whatever. I wear the like badge of honor. Every person who's on my list of supporters are people that I've worked with. They know how I work, they know how serious I am, and they know that I like to get things done. And I don't have any rules. I'll work with anyone, I'll meet anyone, I'll partner with anyone to deliver the services that need to be delivered in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor for questions. Would you please forgive me? Al Mayo, last but certainly not least, I apologize. Thank you. 2 minutes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alan Mayo, running for District 4. I deliberately wore a shirt with my name on it because there's another guy here with facial hair, and I know we're going to be easily confused. Nancy and I moved here 30 years ago to Venice. I'm lying. Thanksgiving Day will be 30 years. I have 3 children. Alan, my oldest, and I am retired, and I'm 64 years old. And my beautiful children are 42, 40, and 25. Alan didn't fall too far from what I've always done for a living. He's a civil engineer. Denise lives here in Sarasota with one of my grandchildren. She's a website designer, and she does a lot of social media. My other 2 grandchildren are with Alan in Chicago. And my youngest, the baby, who has been heavily involved here, we were just talking about it with CYD, a great organization, is a Sarasota County deputy for the last 3.5 years. I didn't have any trouble finding this location because my firm, and yes, I was one of the principals of a very large engineering, planning, environmental, and landscape architect firm. We did this project, and I'm very proud of it. I think the recent budget discussions probably pretty boring material, will show you that we are coming out of the worst recession in the history of our country. The fear that fiscal year 2016, starting in November 1st, 2015, there was going to be this tremendous shortfall. Bill First reported a 4% increase last year in assessed values.
20 seconds.
6.2% increase this year, and we're working our way out of that. I'm a lifelong Republican. I was on the Republican Executive Committee back in 81 and 82. Look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. By the way, we do the closing statements in reverse, so you will be first. I will now open the floor for questions. Some questions have been written and handed in by cards. We may not have time to get to all the written questions. Please note that questions may be asked by South County Tiger Bay members only. Questions need to be asked clearly and concisely, and of course with respect, on one topic only, and we ask you to please ask the questions in about 30 seconds. Questions need to be also in the form of a question. And candidates, all the questions asked will come either from me or from the audience members. Let's begin with the first question from the audience. Who would like to ask the first question? Oh, Jeff Boone, thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. I've got quite a cast of candidates here. This is great. Some of you all mentioned what your business experience has been in Florida. Some of you didn't. So if you didn't, would you please tell us what your business experience has been? But then for all of you, how you think that business experience will help to make you to be a better county commissioner.
Thank you so much. Let's start with Mr. Caragulio and go up the aisle.
You want me to stand?
Yes, and please stand. I think it's helpful for you in the back, right?
I didn't know the lawyers were going to be able to ask questions. Is this on the record? Very, very simply, I've actually been on the other side of the table, on the other side of the desk. When you walk up to the desk, you're trying to get a permit, you're trying to get something done, you're trying to get a straight answer, which is a total anomaly sometimes in government. One of the things I can tell you, being new to the public sector, is where's the straight answer? Tell me what I need to do. So I have that perspective. I have been on the other side of that, and I can, as someone who's in customer service, I can also troubleshoot and try to discover where you can make improvements. It's just that things need to be clear. Very, very, very often in Sarasota, the answer to the question is dependent on who's asking the question. That's a terrible standard. Terrible standard. There's one set of rules. They should be clear, and when regulators are engaged with someone, they should be facilitated. Doesn't mean you let anything go. Doesn't mean you say yes to everything. It just means that things are clear. And I can tell you, having been on the other side, that's something I will seek out, identify, and correct.
Well, I have dedicated a large portion of my life to being a mother, which I think is one of the most important jobs. But I have always been an entrepreneur. I started a business when I first came to Sarasota, Self-Esteem and Nutrition for young girls, and I worked with a variety of different not-for-profits in town. And then as an anthropologist, like I said, I have a media company and a consulting business. I think that what's important is, in Sarasota, we're always looking for someone to come and rescue us, some organization, some corporation to come in and create jobs. I think that we really need to focus on the creative capital that we have in Sarasota County, and we need to focus on that spirit of entrepreneurship and the knowledge that a lot of people that choose to have Sarasota for a home have, and use those resources to build our economy.
My business has always been service, either in restaurant hospitality or in behavioral sciences. Been working in some degree of helping other people, making sure those needs are met. The last few years, I've been seeing the problems that we've been having on a global scale, and I took a year off of using money. So opening myself up to more resource-based economics and to see how I could increase my wealth with non-monetary endeavors. And it was quite an amazing experience. It opened my eyes to a lot of things. And during that time, I became the Director of Operational Development and founder of the Commonwealth Time Bank, which is an alternative currency system where people can use their time to exchange what it is they need instead of using money. Because as a lot of people in this community know, money is hard to find sometimes these days. And so opening up to that, I hope to as a county commissioner, bring more service-oriented activities into the county and get people to realize the wealth that we truly do have. Thank you.
Good question. I was raised in a construction background, and as a young man, I was doing estimation and supervising on construction sites, so I'm familiar with the construction industry. I was volunteering at the sheriff's office, and while that was a great disappointment to my father, who sort of thought I was going to help him out, stay with his company, I got addicted to law enforcement and basically became an adrenaline junkie and had to go off in a different direction. But from doing estimations, permitting, and actually supervising a small construction company, I do believe that I have that background to start off with.
Well, I have a background in both business and as an employee at various different times, and in various different disciplines. Most recently, I was an acupuncturist before I retired. But I've also been a construction worker, not as Shannon. I was the one with the shovel in his hand, but I did that too, and that was a while ago. And so I've had a variety of experiences, and how to relate it to my service as your commissioner. I think no matter what you do or have done, I've had a similar experience, and we'll go from there.
Well, I am a registered professional engineer. I'm a graduate of the University of Illinois, and I've done graduate work in environmental engineering. I have been a registered professional engineer for the past 51 years, and I'm also a registered professional surveyor and mapper for 61 years, starting at the age of 18. I have lived in Sarasota County for the past 33 years. I have 4 children, and all of my children are college graduates, with the 2 youngest holding a master's degree. I served on the Pineview Association board when my children were at Pineview Association, and when they graduated, then I resigned from that position because I thought some parent that had children in school should have been. I served on the CEO Executive Committee for the Sarasota County School Board.
10 seconds.
When Tom Gall was the president, and we brought the charter school system to Sarasota County. Thank you.
What do we have, a minute?
1 minute.
Okay. Real simply, I think my businesses have been very open and obvious to most of the people in this room. Nancy and I have a vacation rental cabin business that we own and that Nancy, quite frankly, runs. But more importantly, most of you have eaten and hopefully never got sick. We built the Frosted Mug in 1984 in South Venice, built the Frosted Mug in 1989 in Tacoma, sold both of them in 1996, and not coincidentally, I was recruited. I have an accounting degree, but my real background is construction and planning. And I was recruited by a big engineering and planning and environmental firm, and I did that until I retired in April of this year. I sold all my stock back in January. Those businesses are very obvious, they're very local, it's obvious what we did, and I'm proud of all of that. So thank you.
Well, as I said earlier, I was an investigative reporter, journalist for about 20 years. The rest of the 14 years of my career, I've been in public relations, marketing, and communications. For the last 9, I worked at the Sarasota Association of Realtors as their communications director. Back in the day when I covered Venice City Council, Mr. Boone, I sat for many, many hours listening to you. He made me late for dinner more than once, I'll tell you that. I think journalism is different these days. When we get our news these days, most people get it from the internet or from television. It's become infotainment, and it's a sad thing to say that. I consider myself a traditional journalist, an old school journalist. I tried to get all sides of the story and report it fairly, balanced, evenly. These days, you really get such diverse, such really polarized news. To me, it's more entertainment than news value. But I value the years I had as a journalist, and I think I can bring that perspective to the Sarasota County Commission, something they've never had before. Thank you.
It was my start here in Sarasota County that's influenced me when it comes to my position of diversity required in our economy. When my husband and I decided to move down here in 1999, I was working in the semiconductor industry, earning close to 6 figures. And when I looked for work down here, when we moved down here, obviously there wasn't anything that I could do. So I started my own consulting firm for the semiconductor industry because I wanted to continue to look for work down here that's high paying while, still earning an income. So I stayed in that consulting firm, but the problem was for the first 2 years of my marriage, I was traveling elsewhere. I think I saw my husband all of 6 weeks because most of my customers and clients were in Oregon, California, Texas. So I really felt that there was a need for diversity down here, especially for high-paying jobs, because I went through that experience. I know how tough it is to work and find good-paying jobs here in Sarasota.
Thank you, candidates. Next question. Yes, Cynthia.
I have a question about, which is a concern to all of us. The warm mineral springs is a concern to the Northport community. I read now they're closing the springs again. What can we do to help keep those springs open? Because it concerns all of us.
Just a reminder that you have 1 minute to respond, and let's start now with Ms. Ramirez and move up the table this way.
It's unfortunate. I wish when they created the current contract with the ones who are doing War Mineral Springs at this moment, that they had some sort of extension, because we need to keep that open. It's a lot of people, when I'm walking door to door in Northport, like I have been recently, that's the number one concern that keeps coming up. Why do we have to close the springs? The county is earning income. They get $20 per member. I think if you're a county resident, it's $15. So if they can continue to earn that income while they decide and just pay for a lifeguard and maybe somebody, a park manager, which they could probably afford, then we can keep the springs open. So I think it's too bad they couldn't extend the contract. I wish they could, but I think that's the best way to go forward with War Mineral Springs.
Years ago, when I lived in Northport, War Mineral Springs was an issue even then. I remember meeting a guy named William Royal, who swam in the springs for years and found a lot of artifacts, millions of years old. Eugenie Clark was a friend of his. The two of them swam with sharks. Google sometime William Royal and Eugenie Clark. It's a rich history. And that's what really we need to preserve in War Mineral Springs. The rich history of that, it's really a national, if not an international treasure there. I think the Jebco deal might be too intense. It might take away from that flavor, that character. The other arrangement seems to be better in my mind. I'd love to have sat in the county commission and heard what the Northport city council members were saying about this. I think government is best when it's closest to the people. And if the Northport board feels one way, virtually 100%, and the county feels the other way, we really ought to listen to those people because they live closest to the issue and the problem.
10 seconds.
So at this point, I haven't explored all the answers, but I really want to preserve what we have there as best as we can.
The honest answer is I don't know what we do at this point. I talked to a few attorneys and I said, must it be 2 separate votes? He said, naturally, Al. It has to be 2 separate votes. So you've got 2 5-member commissions. You're going to have to get 3 people from each, obviously, to agree to the same thing. That is a jewel. But as we talk about the jewel, remember, the houses across the street all have septic systems. The houses across the street, many of them, hundreds of them, all have at least one well, one straw in the ground, maybe 2, because they sank a second one for irrigation. So we need to address everything comprehensively. All those septic systems, all those straws in the ground, and yet we seem to be focused on preserving the springs. Maybe the first step is to get water and sewer run there into that area.
So I was the engineer of record on Warm Mineral Springs from 1996 to 2003. And we prepared a preliminary plan. It's even gone through the engineering design, which brings the water mains to the site. And it also, there's a sewer lift station which takes the sewage off of the site. That plan included villas, which were surrounding the Warm Mineral Springs. It also takes all of the drainage away from the springs. There's a 300-foot buffer around Warm Mineral Springs, and it takes it to the south and to the east of the springs. That takes care of the environmental problem that's occurred on the springs. The development was for villas, and I live in Villa d'Este in Prestantia on the Palmer Ranch, and that design with those villas was exactly the same thing where I live, and
10 seconds, sir.
Okay. That to me is the right solution for Warm Mineral Springs, and it's on record with the city of Northport.
I get nervous when people start talking about public-private partnerships. Generally speaking, in that kind of arrangement, the risk is public and any profit is private. I would rather, seeing that the government owns the Warm Mineral Springs, I would like to see them lease it to an operator without subsidizing it in any way, and the operator would have to make sure things were going smoothly and the state guidelines were being met and the environmental guidelines were being met and that sort of thing. That's how I'd like to see it done.
First of all, both commissions need to be complimented. They have preserved a natural gem that is unduplicated anywhere else in the state, to the best of my knowledge, anywhere else in the country. So, as a community, whether you're pro-City Northport or you're pro-Sarasota County, everybody needs to take a big step back and go, we've got something that nobody else has got. The question I see is that it seems like there seems to be a rush to go on to develop this piece of property, to establish what some people want on the property. Now, that's not to say any of that's bad, but just as we've heard from Mr. Minder and from Mr. Mayo, there are other collective ideas and activities that go on around it, whether it's traffic, whether it's sewer and water, whether it's redevelopment opportunities that are adjacent to the springs that need to be discussed, and more of the comprehensive. So this, you also have community buy-in. Anytime you bring something that you're going to do dramatic, it usually takes a couple years. By the time it gets to the other neighborhood associations,